Welcome, everyone. Serious Angler Podcast, where, as always, our main course for you will be talking and hopefully teaching you more about bass fishing. And that, of course, does not come without a distraction or 10 here or there. Whether you guys are here to learn or just hear some bass and banter, you guys are in the right spot. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Egbert, and joined with me is the Bassin captain, Mr. Andy Full, and Idaho's finest, Mr. Adam Deacon. Fellas, how we doing?
Doing good, man.
Yeah, not a bad Monday when we're recording this.
Well,
it's a good day.
We got to start off and talk about Andy's first ever kayak tournament, which he almost freaking went and won. But hopped in a kayak tournament this past weekend. Andy, you gotta kind of give us the scoop. It was a 3-fish frog only charity tournament, but it sounded like it
Listen,
was fun.
Bailey did a good job at making me feel comfortable. He power dropped me in just like a bass boat with me sitting on top of the Hobie, which we have on film. It was pretty great. I was a little clueless at first on how to make the thing steer and figured that out after about 10 minutes of doing circles. But once we figured it out, got comfortable, started standing, caught some fish on a frog. It was guns loaded and full steam ahead. We had some fun.
Yeah, I called you. I think 2 hours maybe into the tournament just to check on
It
you.
was like an hour in. It was an hour in.
So something like that.
It was like 7:15, and I was like, dude, I got 55 inches already.
Oh yeah, he's like, yeah, I caught a 6-pounder, and I was like, I was making a long freaking run, and I was checking on him, making sure he was still floating, and he's like, yeah, I'm having a good day. So it sounded like things went pretty well for you. You walked away with a second place finish in your first ever kayak tournament.
Cool.
And I guess rating out of 10, how would you rate your first kayak derb experience?
Honestly, like I'm gonna give it an honest 8 out of 10, not because of the kayak fishing part, because it rained the whole day basically, and I walked out there wetter than a poodle that jumped in a puddle.
Yeah.
So like I wasn't too happy about that part. Yeah, I wasn't too happy with the rain part, but other than that, it was an absolute blast. And
Yeah.
as the day went on, I just had to like learn how to position the kayak and the grass mat so I don't throw myself out trying to set the hook, etc. But after about 2 to 3 hours, I started like really like figuring it out, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had lovely conditions for a frog only tournament with a high of 60 degrees, which I don't even think it hit that. A little bit of wind and pouring rain all day long, with a cold front coming in. So it was not the most ideal conditions for a frog tournament, but people caught them. It was a fun time. And hopefully now I can get my kayak somehow fixed and up to go for state championships as Andy broke it.
So
right after he said I didn't break anything, and then go pop, and there it goes.
Yeah, it was like we're pedaling back into the launch to pull out, and I'm like, well, at least I didn't break anything today, so we'll take that as a plus. And I put it in reverse to back up away from the dock so I can pedal it up onto the beach. And I was like, I can't go forward. I'm stuck.
Yep. So hopefully the folks at Morgan Marine are able to somehow salvage that. Otherwise, I might be just, I guess, wade fishing for my state championship this weekend potentially. Maybe use an inner tube.
You can take my boat. Nobody will know.
Oh yeah. They won't have no idea that there's a carpet front deck with a measuring board. But either way, I was glad to get you out there, dude. It was a good time. But we have
10 out of 10 would do it again.
Yeah, and it was perfect segue into what we're talking about today with Mr. Jacob Fouts, and that it was a big cold front that came in on Saturday, and that is another sign of kicking off the summer to fall transition, which is an interesting and difficult time in bass fishing. Can be fun, but obviously can be tricky. And we dive into all of that with Mr. Jacob Fouts today. But before we do, Deacon, I'll kick it over to you and hear what's been some of the buzz around the industry, man.
Yeah, first things first, though. I am curious because I'm not a kayak guy. I have never fished from a kayak except maybe being a kid and like with a regular kayak and a spinning rod for trout or something. But my first thought when I heard that this was happening, frogfish only tournament, Andy's a big dude, and I'm thinking a kayak. And when you set the hook on a frogfish, like it's a aggressive situation, right? This isn't spin rod fishing. You don't have to like
It's momentum, baby.
It's momentum.
That's all.
There's a lot of power getting driven in and out of that whole situation. So was there any concern of falling out of the kayak? Like, I mean, I know these things are stable, whatever else, but like, give me like an honest opinion of like stability for what was going on.
Stability was fine if you were pointing, like, so if your kayak was pointing the direction you were casting.
Okay.
There was one instance where I dropped a big one. It was probably an 18 to 20 incher that I was like quartered on,
Oh, no.
and I set the hook. And I have it on video of me like stumbling backwards, almost falling out of the kayak.
Yeah.
And I leaned forward instantly as it was like jumping 150 feet away. It came off, and I sat down. I was like, oh, I was like, and I smiled back. I was like, I almost fell in, but that would have been awesome.
Oh my gosh.
I can say Andy did get a workout in because he texted me yesterday or on Saturday after the event and said my legs are so wobbly.
Oh yeah, I walked into a restaurant to grab some food on the way home because I didn't eat a lick of food on the water after pedaling my butt off for the first time ever. And I like standing in line at the fast food restaurant, which I was not happy I did, but I could feel my legs like shaking and trembling. And I'm like, ooh, like that was a good workout. I need to do that
There
again.
you go. I like it. I like it, man.
I mean, it'll take me about 8 years of doing it consistently to get to the size of Bailey's thighs and calves, but we'll get there one day.
I think that's genetics. I don't think you could even get there as hard as you wanted to work. That's not real. Those are fake.
Tree trunks.
18 years of hockey, that'll get you there.
I guess.
Right.
Wild.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for answering that. So business from the bass boat stuff. So guys, of course, this segment is brought to you by our friends over at Rec Lending. Good time of year. A lot of boats are getting sold right now. A lot of used boats on the market from pros switching out of boats, etc. So if you are interested in one of those or a new boat, go give our friends over at Rec Lending a call and see how things go. Their interest rates, there's talks of rate cuts, all this stuff happening. Yeah. It's worth just picking up the phone and seeing what's actually available right now and how they can help you out. So with that, there was a ton. I mean, we haven't had a show in a minute here, but like this August, September, big changes, obviously, a lot being talked about in the media. We're probably behind on some of the talk of all this stuff going on. But I mean, number one, I think that the thing we can't not bring up, and I'm sure will get brought up in our show, is the coin flip stuff with Bassmaster kind of seemingly coming out of nowhere, but like, holy cow, big implications for the 2026 Elite Series. Everyone has an opinion on this.
Yeah.
What are y'all's opinion, Bailey and Andy?
I think we should coin flip whether or not we're gonna have a show every week. We're gonna go live or do a coin flip. Oh, sorry guys, it's tails. No podcast this week.
Better yet, we should coin flip our way through live. Should I go to the gas station? Nope. All right, staying home.
Should I wipe?
Maybe this is. Oh, I don't know about those questions, but
you're like a Randy, you don't wipe, but that's another story.
Oh my gosh.
Keep going.
I flip a coin for more stuff than I'm happy to admit. Like there'll be times where I'm like,
you are a coin,
I'm a coin
flipper,
flipper, man. Like there'll be times where I'm like, okay, do I clean the house or do I go to the gym? And I have to do both of them, but I don't know which one to start first. I'm just like, I need something to like get me off my butt and go motivated. So then I'll like pick up a coin or whatever else and be like, all right, heads it is, going to the gym, or heads like, dang it, I got to clean the house. Like, so just to like do two things I don't really want to do. But anyways, not
what I actually have done a little bit this year is talking tournament wise from a coin flip is I have a coin flip app, and like if I'm stuck between making a decision and I feel like I'm spending too much time thinking about it, I will go to that coin flip app and say, to myself, I'll be like, heads, I do this, tails, I do this. And whatever it lands on, like if I feel positive about that decision, I do it. If I feel like, oh damn, I got to do that, that tells me I need to do the opposite.
Dude, great point. I'm going to use that for everything in life. Do I go out with this girl? Coin flip app. Do I take this?
We're still on this, honey.
And if you feel bad about it, even though it's the answer, it's like, all right, well, clearly that's my answer.
Yeah, it's just your gut telling you.
Yeah.
little added step to the Polnick 5-second rule that I guess it helps dial it down a little bit further, I guess, if you will. But yeah, man, I mean, to the topic of conversation, the coin flip thing, this is hard because like I can understand as an angler, it's tough because you're being thrown so many different wrenches into basically what's your profession, right? And that is how well do you do in these tournaments? And I can't speak from that obviously because I'm not a pro angler. I'm not at that level. I think as a fan, I can see all the sides of it. That's why I don't really know what my opinion is yet. I don't know when that'll come around. I guess I just kind of want to see how it plays out because I can understand the entertainment value of seeing, you know, leaving it up to a coin on, what if they're going to be able to use forward facing or not use forward facing. And I think, obviously depending on that, I think as anglers and fans, I think we are genuinely intrigued on how a fishery would fish with forward facing, without forward facing. Like we talked about, like Champlain. Like Champlain's a great fishery with or without. You're going to catch a lot of fish with or without. I think we just see more diversity without forward facing at a location like that. So I think that's interesting. I think it's entertaining, but in the grand scheme of things, how does that impact at all? Should we be basing all of professional bass fishing from the Elite Series based on a coin flip and call it the best of the best? Because even when you have a coin flip involved, but then I think about that, and we talk about it a little bit in this show with Fouts, but like the NFL starts off with a coin flip. Granted, obviously not as grand of a scale of like schedule, but I don't know. I really don't know where to put it. I can see why it's frustrating though. People saying either allow it in all of them or ban it in all of them. But I think as long as Bassmaster can be actually truthful, which is asking a lot in my opinion, this year on their ratings, from each event on how non-forward versus forward-facing events compare in regards to numbers of viewership, I think they'll have an answer going forward. It's just how do you trust those numbers? That's my only thing.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up good points. Andy, what's kind of your take right now?
I'm so indifferent on it because I love both, right? Like I think it's kind of cool that they're limiting it and not limiting it. I wish it wasn't a coin flip though. I think it would have been more fun and drama related. Like, all right, we're gonna show up to this event the day before practice, right? Do like a spin wheel and stick your hand and grab it out, like type deal, and be like, yeah, here we go. No forward facing this event. Like, I think that could have made it really fun instead of just be like, oh, we have to trust a coin and people talking for an hour and a half. And I didn't tune in and watch it, but it is what it is where I'm at. Like they're going to do what they want to do. I feel like they're kind of catering to the minority who barks the loudest, right? Like, which is something that all of humanity tends to do. We listen to those who speak the loudest, but the silent majority are the ones that eventually always kind of get punished. So it I understand all sides are from a conservation side, a fish catching side, but at the end of the day, guess what? Anglers are still going to be looking down and not talking on camera. So I don't know where the wind's going to come from.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a mix of appeasing the loud minority, but also trying to still get the sponsorship dollars from the tech companies. So it's like I don't know. It's Andy kind of put it is what it is, and I think we're just going to have to see how it plays out and see what happens by the end of the year. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, too, if you look at it, it's really kind of no different than Major League Fishing's format this past year in regards to you only have one period out of 3 every day to use it or not use it. Not that that's a coin flip making you have that decision of when you use it and when you not use it, but it's you're still getting offered both scenarios of having it and not having technology. So
yeah, but you're not.
Yeah, but
I think that's different though because you're not being able to use it at all in the event.
Yeah.
Like
And Major League Fishing
it's a
is
completely
also
different
still
strategy in every event now versus in Major League Fishing. Yes, you're limited for a certain window, so that creates a new part of strategy. But like even I think through practice and all these sorts of things, it's just such a drastic change up. I don't know. My take on it, I feel for the anglers. I think as a fan, I'm really going to enjoy parts of it. Champlain is going to be so fun to watch, right?
Yep.
I feel for the anglers. And I also think the implications on the back end, what I don't like about it maybe was how fast it was all decided and like, boom, here's what it is. This is what's going to happen. I was just like, what?
Yep.
Like, what?
Yeah.
But I think the implications of technology, it just kind of goes against a couple of the things that were talked about previously. And we get into that with Jacob in this episode, to tune in to like think through that a little bit further. But it's going to be super interesting, man. It's going to be super interesting to see what transpires in 2026. And that in its own is creating drama, viewership, etc. So like I get that aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole grand scheme of the pro circuit's interesting nowadays. It's just like, I mean, I feel for anglers in general just because it's just change after change after change every single year. And it's like,
Every
when are
year.
we going to get some stability, And then you got
well,
leagues
and it's
calling
not
each other
even that
out, and it's
it doesn't even feel like good change, right? Like we should be for the betterment and advancement of the sport of bass fishing. And it just feels like we take a step forward and every organization's like, oh, let's take 3 steps back real quick.
I get,
And then
yeah. I think you're making a good point though, Andy. Like it's frustrating as a fan, as an angler, whatever you want to call it, this consistent change, right? MLF has been so criticized for that, of like always changing the rules, changing the format, changing this. Like Bass is doing the same here. And it's just like it's hard to follow. And I get it. We're a young alternative sport is what I would call it. And you compare it. I was actually at a friend's house this last Sunday, and they're like big surfer fans. So they're watching the pro surfing going on, right? That's happening. And there's fantasy surfing the same way there's fantasy bass fishing. And we were joking about how these are like alternative sports. They're not mainstream sports, so they have differences, and they're never going to have the viewership that all these other brands have, or these other sports have. But they are feeling like the same way in pro surfing. The championship format has changed every year, and it's hard to follow what's happening in the event as a fan because stuff is always constantly changing. And so I think you're right, Andy. It's just super frustrating to like go down a road and then like completely change this and that. And it's like, whether it's right or wrong, I think we got to let stuff play out for a couple of years before we just keep changing stuff.
Well, yeah. And these things take time to regulate and actually see the results you need to make a decision. But like when we're talking about new people getting into the sport, you know how confusing it has to be to keep up with all that? You're just like, you're screwing over this group of people that is genuinely interested. Like, at least speaking for me, when I see something new and it looks confusing as hell, I
I
just,
don't do it.
I don't do it. I ditch it.
Yeah.
And
There's other
so
things I can spend my
that to
time
me
on.
is just, I mean, this is where I'm throwing, you know, NPFL has a great advantage because they're just at least consistent,
Stable.
and I think there's that. I'm not a huge fan of throwing shade at other trails, but like at the end of the day, I think them just having a consistent format year after year. Granted, I know they got rid of forward facing, but that one change, beyond that, it's
They
consistent.
simplified the rules. They
It's
kept it simple and consistent.
very simple. And I know change is going to happen eventually, just like the NFL has some minor changes year after year, but for the most part, the product is always the same. We need some stability back in that. And just make up our minds here.
I will say this, though, with the change, Bass, in my opinion, did miss a mark. When they banned forward-facing sonar, they should have said, okay, for those events, you can use the Alabama rig, because that would have made it really fun. Especially like Gunnersville in February, A-rig. Imagine the bags they would have dropped without forward-facing sonar.
You catch megas.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, we'll see some diversity, though. That's for dang sure.
We
Definitely
will
gonna see some diversity.
And we'll see. I mean, how does this implication affect the opens anglers coming in? I mean, we saw such a
I-
dominance from young anglers. In part, in fact, these guys are great anglers. Don't get me wrong. Part, in fact, because they're so good at forward facing. In these last couple of years, does that change now? Like, these guys that come in, are you going to see that? And then also, if you're one of those guys coming in, are you upset because you've spent all this time and effort, years of learning this technology, to then now it's a coin flip on whether I get to use it or not? Like and it's not necessarily like what we talk about too in the show is like naturally the way how good bass did, in my opinion, in these last couple of years, last year and then this upcoming season of diversity of schedule, they've made it less of a factor, certainly in events. There's no doubt in my mind that has become less of a factor based on certain events and times of year. So that's always going to be a natural factor. But like, what's your take as an opens guy qualifying, trying to make the elites this upcoming fall?
Yeah, we'll see if Bass announces changes for the opens for next year. What that's going
or
to be.
last minute changes for the EQs.
Yeah,
Like,
I
here
don't
we go.
think
No
you.
forward facing sonar.
I don't think you can make that a coin flip though for that amount of angler. That's a very hard thing to police. But I mean, I feel like they know what they're getting into, and I think if anything, it just forces them to make themselves a better rounded angler. Like the guys that are working hard at understanding forward facing, that just like the opposite, they need to make sure that they're good without it.
Yeah.
And think just like every year, the best is going to rise to the top, and especially now with having both, I think you're going to see that even tenfold, and especially you're going to see some of these younger anglers shut some people up, which
I think that's what's coming. And like, I didn't want to say it out loud,
hard
right?
truth.
Like, I think a lot of this was to make maybe some of the veteran anglers happy because they're the ones barking loudly, right?
Yeah.
And these young kids are only whooping them because it's forward facing sonar. But I think we can all look back in the last probably year and a half or 2 years. There's been a couple events won by young anglers without fully implementing forward facing sonar. So like, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Sabine River standings. I mean, go to
Yeah.
look at
10 killer
Mississippi
up
River.
shallow flipping. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, either way, it is what it is. I think as fans, it'll be entertaining. I can definitely understand frustrations of wanting it one way or another. But I just hope we get some stability and whatever is best for bass fishing. I am a fan of,
100%.
and
Yeah.
I'm just glad I'm not the one making the decisions.
Yeah. Speaking of more change, and maybe a positive light here, but the 2026 changes from the tackle warehouse, they're basically calling the resurgence of the tackle warehouse pro circuit in 2026. I am going to rattle off a couple of the changes and then would love to hear y'all's take on this as well.
Yeah.
So number one, it's $100,000 guaranteed first place prize, $35,000 MLF Phoenix bonus, no entry fee championship, which is cool. All 6 qualifying events for that. They dropped the entry fees from $5,500 to $5,000, so $500 off the entry fee. They're calling this the biggest payouts per event outside of the BPT. 7 direct berths to Redcrest in 2027. 50 championship berths guaranteed regardless of the field size. Top 5 anglers in AOY advance to the BPT. No double qualifying restrictions. $50,000 for AOY. Forward facing and 360 limited for 3 hours during each day, similar to the BPT format. And live on the water coverage, weigh-in coverage daily. And basically the sign-up structure for this is they started beginning accepting entries for the folks who were in the Tackle Rouse Invitationals previously and in the BPT, and then it'll drop to the anglers who qualified in the Toyota Series and things like that, see if they want to go. And then it basically continues to drop into the general public to accept any remaining spots. And then, of course, priority will be given to those fishing all 6 stops. So I believe, I don't know this for sure, but I believe you can hop in to like 1, kind of how the invitationals were set up, or 2, depending on if there's room. They're capping the field at 150. So More change, more confusion. But what is your take on this?
Yeah, I want to know how they're going to police the 3-hour thing.
Yeah, that was my
right?
thing.
Like,
I don't.
Yeah, it's a
That's
good
interesting.
point. If like you have these covers or the shields or whatever that are going over forward facing.
All right, you got to pull your trolling motor and put the shield on and security tag it. So does that mean there's a marshal in every single boat that's
Yeah,
policing
how
it?
does the
Right?
time
Like,
start and stop?
Yeah,
Like,
I wonder if you have like maybe there's a technology to incorporate in a graph to where it like disables after a certain amount of time used.
yeah, because we know fishing technology always works all the time and is
All right.
trustworthy.
Fair point.
Yeah,
Fair point.
I do. I feel like that's just making it such a pain for Major League Fishing. How do you? Because they don't have periods like the BPT does.
Right.
How do you enforce 3 hours? Like somebody's gonna have 3 hours and 5 minutes. Like how do you? I don't. I don't get how you do that. Andy nailed it. Like, I think that's the one thing where it's, back to the pro circuit. Like, cool. I'm indifferent on whatever it's called. I honestly couldn't really care less on what it's called. I think it's a fun league for guys to fish, and there's some money in it to win. I think that though the 3 hours thing just throws a wrench in all of it, where it makes it super confusing and a process for people competing and watching and managing. And I don't know.
I can see it now. Angler fails polygraph test for lying about how long they used their forward facing sonar and 360 equipment. It was 3 hours and 1 minute and 12 seconds. So he was a minute and 12 seconds over. So he's been
DQ.
disqualified. Yeah.
I don't
Oh
know,
man,
dude.
you aren't kidding.
I don't know.
It's a lot of gray area.
Dude,
A lot of wiggle room.
it's just hard to follow, man. Like it's just hard to follow as a fan, and we freaking cover this stuff, right? Like it's hard for us to follow. It's really hard for the average fan to follow.
Just let them go fishing, set a standard rule. Can they use it or not use it, and just be done with it?
Truth.
Yeah.
Personally, in my opinion, is if the state regulations say they can use it, you can limit as an organization how many transducers they have on the boat, but they should be allowed to use it per state laws. So it's just,
Yeah.
advancement. Technology advancement is terrifying to people. Like, whatever. It is what it is.
Yep. Take the Red Crest, bring back the Forcewood Cup. Done. Be good. I don't know. I really don't know.
I think what's going to happen is you're just going to start like it's already happening, but it's just going to continue. You're just going to have people not follow because it's too complicated and there's too much going on and it's too much like it's just like
Or stop fishing the events. What are they going to do then when people stop fishing? Now their whole bankroll in the lower entry level events stops funding the top. Now they have no money.
I mean,
Well,
the
then,
thing that I think people will keep fishing, I really do. Like I think about this personally, and this is like, this is funny to be like, this is like, all right, let's real talk here on this for Adam right now. Like, I'm someone who followed stuff so intently, all the pro leagues, right? Like followed it, all of it. I have felt myself transitioning from following less of the pro stuff and fishing more tournaments for myself and the stuff that I'm doing. So I don't think you're going to lose the lower grassroots guys fishing their stuff, but you may lose some of the interest of the top level stuff. And there's a bias there because I've also made this decision and transition in my life where I'm like, I want to work, podcast, fish. I don't want to just fish and podcast. Like I want to have stuff outside of that. But I think that regardless, I think that was a part of that. Just the confusion is making me not follow it as intently.
Yeah, I think we had a spike of people that wanted to be professional anglers, and now I think we're having a big decline in the amount of people that want to do that, just because it's just so confusing. Like, I mean, I agree, Deacon. Even though I've never had the aspiration to be a professional angler, I was glued to all the professional stuff, and we still cover it very heavily. But I just find myself losing interest, and I think people even see that reflected on the podcast. Is we have a lot of content creators on, we have a lot of guides on, like things like that. Like we have a lot of pro anglers on still. Don't get me wrong, because we're great friends with a lot of them. We love those guys, and This is not an angler issue by any means.
No.
This is the leagues need to figure it out, but it's
I mean, we could argue we have the best talent of all time right now fishing at the professional level, right? Like, there are so many high-end anglers in every league,
Mm-hmm.
more than probably ever. Like, it used to be Bass had 5 or 6 guys that would dominate, and the rest would be like, okay, you're fighting for 20th and down. It was the same way with FLW. It was the same 4 to 6 guys that would win every single event in every Forest Wood Cup. Now it's like you don't know who's going to win every event.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but because there isn't as much what's the word I'm looking for here? There's not as much difference between angling skill. Like, everybody is good at this point.
And I'm not even going to put the onus all on the leagues here. I think, and this is something that we've talked about a ton off air, just as our planning and our business planning for everything, right? Is like, it's not even only just on the leagues here, but this advent of the content creator and the push of people watching fun, cool things on YouTube and pulling away from just your typical sources. Like, that's just a natural occurrence that unfortunately is going to go against tournament fishing. You're taking eyeballs away.
Professional fishing is digging their own grave by making things harder to watch and keep up with.
Yeah. No, they're not helping the situation,
No.
but I'm saying like there's a natural occurrence here that they're fighting anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's a hard thing to compete with when you're talking about the vast majority of fishing is
Not
that group that doesn't care about the competitive side.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, regardless, here at Serious Angler, you're always going to get the same thing from us. Like, we're here to have fun, teach, well, get on people like pro anglers and creators that can teach, maybe not us all the time, but and have a good time doing so. So you're always going to get that product from us.
You're going to get diversity
for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I try to remind people to just be positive about it and do their best to push the positive narrative on those that are around them and in their circle, because the more we're pushing that, the better the future of the sport's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some other platforms that are against the positive narrative for whatever reason, and there's a reason why the sport doesn't want them a part of the sport. So just keep being positive. We'll see what we can do about how this year goes. We're going to try to be optimistic on these changes and hope these changes become stable one way or another, whatever they are, at least so we can get some stability into it and keep pushing back into the sport of competitive fishing. But at the end of the day, guys, fishing's always going to be there. We're always in here for the best. Yeah.
All right. Long tangent, long entry into our episode, but I think one worth that we needed. So
yeah, it was the longest biz from the bass boat I think we've had ever.
For real, since the show.
Yeah. If you guys have takes, opinions, agree, disagree with us, put it down in the comments, DM us on social, whichever it is. We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. And always happy to talk about those, obviously in a mature adult manner. But I think without further ado, let's get Fouts on here. Before we jump into the show with Fouts, though, real quick for you guys, just a quick reminder, because I know we haven't had a show in a little while, at least an OG show, all three of us here in studio. Oh, I say in studio, our remote studios, if you will. But right now, Omnia, as always, Omnia Fishing, we have 10% off. We have links to Omnia, Hobie Eyewear, Road Active Suspension, and all our different partners down below in every single show where you guys can save money on their products, especially now that we're starting to get into the fall season. Some people might be stepping away from fishing to go hunting, whatever have you. If you guys are looking to collect on some gear, some sales, now's the time to do so. But Omnia right now got some new stuff and the new arrivals, like that new 6 Cents Bodega, some new stuff that's going to be hitting the sites, I'm sure, from iCast here soon. And then if you're not already a pro member, there's the pro sales site that only pro members have access to. And there's like half off on Daiwa Zillion rods, Xenon rods. I think there's like $10 30 pack of D-bombs. Like, you can make a lot of savings right now if you're an Omnia Pro member.
There's some great stuff.
Yeah, $50 a year, and you get a gift card to go use on the site, becoming a pro member, and you get all the map features. So good time to do so, especially when we're talking about a year of change. Being a pro member with that map features, that's big. But dudes, I think without further ado, let's get into today's show, Mr. Jacob Fouts.
Rock and roll.
All right, folks, we are back. Another Serious Angler podcast with the man, Mr. Jacob Fouts. Looks like about to do a little deer management we got going on, Jacob.
Absolutely, buddy. Deer season is quickly approaching, and let me tell you what, deer hunting sounds way better than bass fishing right now. If I'm being completely honest with you,
I don't blame you at all. Our Seriously Western show we did on Monday, I think Deacon and I veered into the hunting talk a good 17 times. But naturally so, right? I mean, it's that time of year where things are getting, changing fishing wise, but also it's that time of year where things are getting colder. And it almost like I was telling Andy this the other day, I was driving to the lake. I smelled some apples. I had my warm coffee in the truck with me. It was like 45 degrees. I had a hoodie on. I'm like, I feel like I should be driving to go get up in a tree stand right now, not going fishing. But it's a fun year for both, or a fun time of year, I should say, for both.
absolutely. I walked out this morning and had a little chill in the air. I was like, oh, I would give anything to be sitting in a tree right now.
Now, is there just a factor for you? End of the season. I mean, it's been a long elite season, everything like that. Is it like, all right, I need a break, or is it just because hunting's rolling around? Where does it? What's the motivation?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, my first love was deer hunting, and just throughout the year, fishing an elite series schedule and guiding on top of that. It just usually by end of August, I'm kind of like, I'd rather do anything but go bass fishing right now. So kind of gives me a good reset here. Probably usually by the end of November, I'm itching and ready to go catch some bass again. So
yeah,
I think that's real and an important truth, man. It needs to be that. I don't know. At least for me, when I'm grinding hard on something, having a nice little break is important.
yeah, no, like this is generally the toughest time of year to fish down here in Tennessee, anyway. So I'm like, I don't want to go. It's a grind all year anyway. I don't want to go out fun fishing and have to grind that hard on them to catch just a couple. But I'll probably still sneak out a few times. But that's just the bass fisherman in me. I can't go too long without scratching that itch. But it's there's not much of an itch right now. I'll tell you that. My boat hasn't moved since I got home from lacrosse. It's been parked.
I get it.
It never fails though. I'll be up in a tree bow hunting and I'll be thinking about smallmouth, and then I'll be smallmouth fishing and I'll get a update from my Moultrie app telling me that figures bucks walking right in front of the tree stand or something like that. I'm always thinking about the other when I'm doing vice versa. But
that's usually how it works.
I don't have that problem. I won't lie. I just fish.
I have that. We always want what we can't have. Like I'm totally right there with you, Bailey. I'm the same way when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. Well, dude, we're gonna be talking some summer to fall transition. You mentioned it's a tough time of year. Can be fun, but definitely for sure can be tough because obviously these fish are on the move. And we're gonna break into all that. But I guess first things first, man. You mentioned lacrosse. Let's give a little, brief rundown on if you had time to think about the 2025 season and how things went for you, and any closing thoughts to your season on the elites.
Dude, this year was the most frustrating year I've probably ever had. Just from obviously I didn't have a great year, but throughout the year, I never felt like I wasn't around them. Like, I got the bites in probably all but maybe one event to where I felt like I could have made the Saturday cut. And, it's just one of those years where when you hook one, you hook it and it's going to come off before it jumps, and it comes up and jumps and it comes off. Like, it was that kind of year. Like, you could not get it to go your way no matter what. You were in the right areas doing the right thing, and you could not get it to go your way. Like, I think at Fork this year, I lost like 4 or 5 over 6 pounds the first 2 days, and I only missed the cut by like a pound. Just stuff like that. Just couldn't get it to go your way. I don't really know how else to explain it. Really, it's just like I was saying, felt like I was in the right areas doing the right things, and just wasn't my year. It's looking back, it's crazy how you can go from one year you couldn't do anything wrong. Every decision you made was the right one. and every time you made a decision, it was it worked out to the next year. You make a decision, you're one step behind, or you get the bite and it just comes off, and it was incredibly frustrating. Generally these kind of years, that's when I fish. I fish more than I usually do, just because I try so hard to get it to go the other way, and I like it. It's almost counterproductive for me, because I'm trying so hard, and I start overthinking everything you do, and it just becomes very frustrating.
Mm. Is that do you think it's just one of those years, or do you think it's like an equipment adjustment for next year? What do you think you need to do to, I guess, to change that tide for 26?
For me, it's just all about getting a little bit of a reset, and probably stepping away from fishing for a little bit, just to kind of, just like I said, just to reset everything, get your mind back in a good place, to where you're not going out there feeling like you're going to be fighting it before you ever get there. And just trying to get back in that mindset, to where you feel like you're always making the right move, you're not second guessing yourself. And generally I get that way once I kind of take a little bit of time away, and come back, and kind of feel like you're starting fresh again.
Just poke a few deer and get ready to rock for 26. I like it.
That's right. Go run an arrow through a few deer, and usually by the end of November, I'm itching and ready to go jack on a few bass, and that's generally when fishing starts getting good around here around the house again. So that's typically when I start hitting it hard again.
I like it.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Seasonality there, man. I don't know. Like, we're talking about, this is the time of the year when you're banging your head against the wall because it's really hard. But yeah, if you don't necessarily, if you're a regular person with a regular job and you can plan your fishing times out, this is some of the toughest time. Wait like 1 month, 2 months, and then things get good again. Like everywhere in the country.
Yeah, it seems like that September, October, especially down here in the South, that like the first 3 weeks of October generally are the very toughest few weeks of the year. And just September in general, you get that summer to fall transition, where there's kind of fish everywhere you want. If you want to fish deep, there's some out there. If you want to fish shallow, there's some there. If you want to fish mid range, there's some there. So you kind of get fish all over, and they're just not super grouped up. But if you can find them grouped up, generally you can do really well in an event, just because weights generally seem to be lower, just because the fish are spread out. And when you can find them grouped up, it tends to be a lot of fun. But it's a little bit like finding a needle in a haystack this time of the year.
Yeah, totally.
It could be a junk fisherman's paradise at
Absolutely.
times, or their
Absolutely.
absolute demise.
No, like I was saying, you can do just about anything you want to do, and have a pretty fair chance at catching one. They just, for whatever reason, they're just hard to get to bite a lot of times. I don't know if it's fishing pressure from just throughout the year, that it just kind of gets to a point where they're just really smart, or if it's a weather thing. I don't know what it is. I try not to get too deep in the weeds on that kind of stuff, because I feel like it can lead you down some roads that are counterproductive. And your best bet is just to go fishing and do what you do best this time of year, and kind of hope it pans out. There's a lot of hoping going on this time of year. You can be around them and they just never get them to bite, or you can be around them and like here at home on the Tennessee River, they tend to school a lot, and you can see them. They'll be schooling 50 yards from the boat, and you bringing your bait right through there, and it's like your bait's not even there, because generally this time of year they start feeding on bait that's super small, and it's just hard to imitate that. And it, like I said, there's a lot of factors that go into why it's tough, but that's one of the biggest.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so as we get into this here, as far as signs to look for, things to look for, what is happening in this transitionary time on the water? What is the bait doing? Let's break into a little bit of what you're looking for out there.
Yeah, obviously you're always always looking for bait this time of year. So anytime you start to get in that fall transition, bait becomes a kind of a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal year round, but it seems like it becomes a really big deal this time of year, just because a lot of times they do get on that bait that's super, super, super small. And a good population of fish tends to feed on that size bait fish, and a lot of times that size bait fish gets in the backs of the pockets where it seems like the fish are naturally wanting to transition to anyway. As they come back up from deep water, you talk about, here in the next 3 weeks, probably we'll start to see a turnover where uh, I don't exactly know the science behind it, but there's like a general depth in the water that there's just going to be no bass because the oxygen is only in so many feet of water, however it works, and generally it's shallow water. But that it's just it's just hard. They're just so spread out. They feed on such small bait. It's hard to imitate what they're feeding on. That seems to be the biggest challenge I've found during that transition, is just trying to imitate what they're feeding on, and it's really hard to do that. And I feel like that's one of the biggest reasons why it gets so tough.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's like that. I don't know. And we'll get into, I'm sure, techniques for that, but it's so true. I mean, the bait fish just seem to be so small. And like you're saying, you're watching 3-pounders chase fish around and they will not touch anything that you're throwing in there as much as you're trying to imitate that size and that presentation. But yeah, the turnover concept, and I'm not same deal, not a science guy on some of this stuff. I'd love Andy or Bailey, your opinions on some of this. But from what I understand, right, like a natural turnover occurs with the temperature, and this is the time when that mixture starts happening in the water, and then you just start having like it just spreads out weird patches of oxygen and not oxygen, and so then the fish also struggle to find all that. And that, I don't know, what's you guys probably know more about that than I do, maybe in the North Country. Or Northeast, I should say.
Like, it's tough because it's a lake-to-lake basis up here. Like the Great Lakes have their own turnover from wind events, right? They don't really have that general air temperature turnover with like precipitation, etc., making everything stir up. Like the Great Lakes will turn over when you have a huge wind and it's going against the natural current, and it upwells cold water from like 200 foot deep and pushes it up tight. The natural lakes, I'm not so much completely in tune with what happens. I just know when I get out to a certain range and I see I'm in 15 foot of water and it's fuzzy from 7 foot down to 15 foot, I'm like, okay, I'm fishing 7 foot or less today. And and that's basically the only cue I know to look for. And then I just start running the main stuff that the fish should be on. And 90% of the time they're not where they're supposed to be. So just like, all right, this is great. I hate it. I hate late September, early October. It's my least favorite time to fish for largemouth.
Yeah, that's definitely a question for Barden on the Real Biology, talking about turnover and what causes all that. But I guess we kind of hit on it a little bit, Jacob, of like you get a little bit cold and start feeling that briskness in the morning type of deal. Like with that, what are some of the first signs, I guess, not just talking about like fishing, but before you even get to the lake, that you start to know that this transition's happening? What things in nature wise kind of key you in on, all right, things are changing, fall's coming?
So down here, for example, it's for us, it's not as much weather related as it is a TVA thing. So we get a fall drawdown. So whenever they start bringing the water level down here, it seems like that's when everything that's what kind of triggers everything. And that's when the fish will start to really, really move. It could still be really, really hot, but the second they start dropping that water, something triggers in the fish, and they want to start pushing shallow. So it seems to me like it's not so much weather related. It's more water level related. But it seems like as we do start to see, we really won't start to see any what I consider really cool weather here probably for another 3 weeks weeks probably where it's getting down below 50 degrees at night. We're still in the low 60s to mid 60s at night, highs in the mid 80s here for the most part. So it still kind of feels like summertime here, and we'll have that for a few more weeks. But generally, the first couple weeks that we do get that cool weather, that's kind of when it seems to be the toughest for whatever reason. It seems like those first 3 weeks of October tend to be the very, very toughest, where it's just, where if you can catch 15 to 18 pounds, that'll be really, really good. Obviously, that's changed a little bit since uh, people have become pretty proficient with the scope and have learned that those fish will get out and just suspend over deeper water and chase the balls of bait rather than push back into some of the shallow pockets and shallow flats. And uh, but they're just like, it's like we always come back to, they just are so spread out. And that's probably the biggest reason here is why they get spread out, is just with the water level starting to fall. It just triggers in them, and that's when they start to move.
Yeah. And I guess with this time of year being as difficult as it is it one where you think you can really go out and try to target size immediately, or are you just simply going and looking for feeding fish first and then worry about size later?
But honestly, I'm just looking to go somewhere where I can get some bites, because it seems like if you can catch a limit, like you're already putting yourself ahead of the 8 ball. And if you can get
Real.
in some areas where you feel like you can catch a limit, then you can kind of go and target those little bit larger fish. And, we've learned over the last several years, it seems like that the little bit bigger ones do kind of stay out, kind of in the middle of the pockets over a little bit deeper water, and just kind of roam around and chase the balls of bait. Um, I've noticed here on the Tennessee River, it seems like the biggest ones tend to be loners. They're just by themselves, and all the big groups, especially in the fall, kind of fall in that pound-and-a-half to 2.5 pound range, with maybe a few 3 pounders mixed in. But it seems like the great big ones. That's a relative term for the fall. A big one here in the fall it's a 4.5, 5+ pounder. That's a big one, where in the summertime and spring, a big one here is 6.5+ pounds. That's when you start. That's what we would consider a big one. But yeah, just trying to find areas where you can get some bites, and then being able to go find a little bit larger average fish kind of seems to be the deal.
Makes sense.
100%. So, like, you have your schools of fish, and then you have your single roamers. Like, what top 3, maybe even 5 baits do you have on your deck that's like your pure confidence? I know if I get around them, the bass are going to bite. Like, what do you have laid out ready to go on a daily basis?
So really, the top 2, when you're talking about the fish that kind of get in the backs of the pockets on the shallow flats, or I mean, there's three main baits really that I throw. When you're just looking to get some bites, try to get the ball rolling, where you can catch a few. It's kind of just a small rattle trap, like a 1/4 ounce trap. That seems to be the best bait you can throw to kind of imitate the size of the a bait you're throwing. Some kind of spook size varies. You can go really small to, I've kind of seen where if you throw an oversized one, like a big saltwater super spook, something just a little bit bigger, that can kind of they can key in on that, because it is so much bigger than anything else swimming around in there. I've kind of found that's one way on certain days you can get those fish to fire, if you throw something really, really big in there, just because it stands out so much more than what a 1/4 ounce trap would be, where you're kind of trying to imitate what they're eating on, but it doesn't really stick out that much, where something really, really big sticks out, and they can key in on that. Obviously that's not always going to work. A lot of days they're not, you won't even get a bite on it. But I've seen days where you could throw that 1/4 ounce trap in there and they won't touch it, but you throw something really, really big in there, like a big spook or some kind of big single swim bait in there, and they will absolutely eat the fire out of it. So my 3 main baits: 1/4 ounce rattle trap, some kind of top water, a spook, a pop bar, anything like that, and either a big single swim bait, or just a tried and true chatterbait.
Yeah,
Tried and true.
yeah.
But
I
I
heard
like
some
that.
guys. Go ahead, D.
I was going to say, I like that concept. I think I've also seen that the same way. There's been so many times in the early fall where I'm really downsizing, trying to imitate the bait, throwing a 1/4 ounce trap, throwing a little jerk bait, doing things like that. And then you're right though, like picking up a big walking bait or a whopper plopper sometimes, and you have one eat it, and you're like, this isn't even close to the size of the bait they're chasing, but it's like that opposite mentality. So I think that's a great tip.
Yeah,
well,
it's it's there's there's always something they'll bite, so you have to kind of play around, and size of the bait you're throwing always tends to be a really really big deal, no matter the time of the year. That just for whatever reason they'll trigger on one size better than another during the course of a day for whatever reason.
sure. Now
Yeah.
I do have a question for this. Like through that fall transition, when does like that frog and punching bite really start ramping up again?
So for us here, that the punch and bite seems to be it's pretty fairly consistent through. It seems to be best like right now from that mid August through middle September. That seems to be the very very best. And then as it the fall kind of progresses here, the frog bite is good from we'll say like the last 2 weeks of October all the way through, depending on where you are, it's at the end of December. Really, I mean, I've caught them on a frog in early January before when we've had a few warm fronts and there's still a little bit of grass left. They'll get under
Nice.
those mats on a warm day and you can get them to bite it.
That's awesome.
Sounds like the opposite of what we had for our frog tournament, Andy.
Yeah, they still shoot it, so it was a blast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, with that, Jacob, we for one of the segments we love to do on this show is the Amped Outdoors electric take. And so this is one that is a bold question where we hope for a bold answer. And obviously Amped Outdoors is our choice of solution for lithium batteries here at Serious Angler. And the question for this one is, when this transition hits, do you decide to chase for personally? Do you chase for big schools of numbers, or when you're going fun fishing, are you completely ditching that, hoping for just small amount of bites, but all big ones? Like, do you have a preference?
Oh man, honestly, you could ask me 3 days in a row and I'll probably give you a different answer every time. I think I think if I had, man, I just like catching them. I just like getting bites, man. So I'd probably go for the groups of fish. I mean, I just like catching them every cast. I don't know what else to say. If you can find that, it gets really really fun, really really quick. But you ask me tomorrow, I might have it be in a different mood and be like, man, I just want to catch big ones. I don't care how many bites I get.
Yeah.
But generally, I think I'd go for the groups of fish. That's just the way I tournament fish anyway. If you can find a group of fish, you tend to be way better off than trying to target single bass unless you're somewhere like Lake Fork or OHI, or you're somewhere where there's really, 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 really big ones like that.
Yeah. I
Right.
think the past couple of years, obviously, like big swim baits, glide baits, seems to have been obviously increasing in popularity. More people throwing them, more people getting experience with them. But you used to hear like, when I went down Chickamauga, I don't know, was it 6 years ago? They're like, "Oh, fall's the time to throw a glide bait." Like that's when you should go and do that. Where I feel like, do you think that's changed now with the popular, where glides like there's not a bad time it seems to throw a glide, or do you think that's still the trend is fall's a great time to pick up a glide?
No, it's definitely changed. I think as people have become, have learned more and more about throwing those, a glide bait and a really big single swim bait, and have kind of learned when and where to use it. You kind of learn that it's good year round, uh, no matter the water conditions or water temp or where the fish are. You can kind of adapt to wherever they are, and it's just a good bait year round. I've personally always done better on it in the spring and summer than I have in the fall,
Oh,
for whatever reason.
Hmm.
Not that I would say I'm probably way behind on fishing a glide than most people. It was kind of never my favorite thing to throw, but I did spend quite a bit of time with it this year, and uh I mean, I wrecked them pretty good this summer on it, out deep on some of the shell bars and stuff that there were big giant groups of fish on. So it's just good year round, dude. There's just as I think scopes help what speed up that learning process quite
Yeah.
a bit here in the last several years. I think guys have kind of learned that it's very effective no matter where and when you want to throw it.
Probably
Now-
just for the fact that you're getting real time feedback when people talk about, you know, react like throwing a jerk bait. You know, you can tell if they're hot on it, if they're not hot on it, and getting that real time feedback. Where now with glides, they're like, it used to be such a visual thing of if a fish was following it or not, but now it's you can tell if they're rising up if you need to switch cadence. I feel like you think that's just rapidly increased the learning curve on some of these bigger baits.
Absolutely, it has. It's you can see how they're reacting to the way you're fishing it and know within a handful of casts if you need to change or keep doing what you're doing. So I mean, it's expedited the learning process really quickly.
Yeah. Now, this might be a complete side tangent here, but have you messed? You're talking about offshore glide fishing. Have you messed at all with like getting these glides down fairly deep, or are you still having these fish come way up?
No, I can I feel pretty good getting it down as deep as I want to get it and being able to be able to get it to them and be able to still fish it effectively.
Wow.
You know, obviously a glide is naturally going to want to rise just with the way it's designed, and you know you can't weight it too much because it kind of kills the action, but you can weight it, kind of find that happy medium to where you can get it down effectively and you're not wasting a bunch of time waiting on it to get down to them. And obviously, depending on where you are, the cleaner the water, the quicker they're going to see it and be able to and start rising up to it anyway. And the water here on Chick is generally fairly clear. You kind of got that Tennessee River green stain, but it's still you can still see down 4 or 5 feet. So, and if you can get it, and they see way better than we can in the water. Generally, once you get it down to within 10 feet of them, they start rising up to come see it. And you know, generally once one sees it, then it kind of brings the rest of them, and that's when you can be. Generally, when there's a group of them, you can be pretty aggressive with it and make one react to it.
Love it.
That's awesome. Now, for somebody that just wants to go out and get bit, super, I guess, simple. Their best opportunity, whether it's say targeting docks or whatever have you. What do you think is their best opportunity to go out this time of year and just get bites? Is it just pick up the trap like you mentioned and burn bank, or what would you recommend to that person?
Yeah, probably just pick up some kind of small beta trap, and you can throw a 2/8 Kitech. You can throw a small spinner bait, a small like a 1.0 size square bill, uh, and just target backs of pockets, shallow flats on the main river channel, uh, edges of grass lines. I mean, really, just anything that looks good, just that typical, stuff you would see in a magazine of where to target. You know, like I was saying,
Read the
backs of
textbook.
pockets, shallow flats, grass lines, any kind of wood in the water, anything like that. But I would generally stay shallow.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you. Go ahead, Andy.
I was say, what it sounds like this would be a perfect time to throw everybody's favorite setup, the BFS.
Oh, don't even get me started.
I was hoping there's some sarcasm in that.
Yes, 100%. I do not own a BFS setup. That's why I was like, yippee.
Oh my gosh.
With that, I was actually going to ask, with that 1/4 ounce trap, what is your setup for that 1/4 ounce trap? Because I feel like that's still one that people really haven't gotten dialed very much with the trap.
Buddy, I throw it on like a 7.4. I throw it on the same rod I throw my chatterbait on. It's just a 7.4, like a medium heavy composite rod. I throw it on 15-pound line. You can actually throw a 1/4 ounce trap surprisingly really well. I mean, you can probably you can throw it further than you can throw a 1/2 ounce trap. It just feels like it. At least to me, that's what it seems like.
The way
That's-
I've spent a
transfers
lot of
into
time with that
cats.
bait with a 1/4 ounce trap. My very best day on chick actually came on a 1/4 ounce trap in I think this was in January.
Wow.
Dang. All right.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
and this will kind of be a good transition to wrap things up and talk 2026. But before that, and any changes going forward, electronics wise, currently, what do you do from an electronics standpoint this time of the year? How are you utilizing your electronics in that fall transition?
Yeah, it just kind of depends on what and where you're fishing. You know, I always have a live scope running, just looking for bait all the time. Don't matter if I'm in 2 foot of water or out over 30 foot of water. You know, bait is such a big deal. It seems like if you're not around any bait, you're probably not going to be around any bass. Uh, but you know, with that, it, you know, I'm always looking for something, whether it be an isolated stump, a brush pile, anything like that. That kind of stuff seems like that's where you're going to find uh, your little bit bigger fish. You know, your singles that are hanging around a piece of structure, especially some of that stuff that's out in the middle that's not seen, that you can't see with your eyes. That kind of stuff seems to play a lot this time of year. So you know, I'm always panning around that kind of stuff, whether it's bait or isolated pieces of structure.
I like it.
Got it.
And generally, if you can find the two in combination, you're more than likely going to get a bite.
Found the
Heck
bait.
yeah.
Found the bass. Yeah. Well, I guess in that then talking 2026, do you have any plans from a YouTube standpoint, content? You know, are you gonna start a flipping coin channel? What do we got going on for 2026?
Yeah, I think I'm going to flip my own coin for every event and decide whether I can use it or not. I think that would go over.
It'd probably go over real well.
I'm going to start flipping a coin for everything I do, whether it's, you know, trying to make a decision on the water. If it's, should I go fish docks or should I go fish grass today? I'm just going to start flipping a coin. And that seems like that's where bass fishing's headed in 2026, since we're flipping coins to decide which events we can use FFS now instead of just using our common sense. But I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole if you want to.
Well, what was it? Which Batman movie was it where the guy would like flip a quarter to see if like it was their time to like he was gonna kill him or not?
Yeah, it's the Joker. I know that one. Was it that Dark Knight? Maybe.
I think so. It wasn't the Joker that flipped the coin though. It was I think it was Harvey Dent was the one that was doing it.
Oh yeah.
That's what you should do, I guess. Now when you're in the tree stand, a deer comes by, you got to flip a coin if it's safe or not.
Yeah, I guess if a 160-inch deer walks by, just flip a coin, see if he gets to live another day.
That'd be a double-sided coin for me.
Yes and yes.
Yeah,
Seat on site.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I guess coin flips aside, schedule wise though, just looking at the fisheries, how do you feel about 2026?
Man, I thought the schedule was really, really good. I think from a diversity standpoint, you're kind of getting a little bit of everything from, you know, good old Tennessee River bass fishing to if you like herring eaters, we're gonna go do that. If you like good old fashioned river tournaments, we're gonna go do that. Good old fashioned smallmouth tournaments, we're gonna get to do that. So I mean, I thought it was really, really a really, really good schedule as the rules were for this year. I thought you were kind of gonna get. I feel like you were going to get the same result regardless of if it was 50-50 or not. You're probably going to get half the events won with it and half the events won without it. Obviously, uh, forward facing would have played a lot more, but I feel like, you know, you kind of would have got a lot of guys that were going to win with it without using it, and you know, probably half that were won using it. So yeah, I thought it was really good. I had no complaints, man. I'm still really excited whether I get to use FFS or not. I think the schedule's good, and you know, I like catching bass no matter if I get to scope them or not scope them. It doesn't make a lick of difference to me, one way or the other, man. I love catching bass, and I'm not gonna get in too big of an uproar whether I can use it or not use it. Obviously, I don't like being told what I can and can't use, but I'm really indifferent one way or the other.
Yeah.
You make a good point though. Like with the diversity of the schedule, I do feel like you maybe already got to the same conclusion on whether or not you use it and use it. Now it's just like different on different bodies of water. So yeah, I feel for the anglers in that instance. Like as a fan, it's like, okay, this is kind of a new twist. This is cool to pay attention to. But in my personal thoughts, like as an angler, I'd be a little frustrated with it all, man. Like just
Yeah, you know, it just it doesn't really feel like there's a direction because like 24 hours before you announce this FFS that we're going to do a 50-50 schedule, how are you going to put out a post that says your ratings were up 20% and then turn around and be like, well, we need to change our product because something wasn't working?
oh, dude, right before we
I know.
needed that.
I think Bassmaster logged on and cut him off.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Or you got a phone call.
From
Yeah.
Bassmaster.
Yeah.
Dude, that was juice. That is the clip we needed right there. That will
I
go
know.
so viral.
Oh,
I know. But it's I still can't tell if I like the coin flip. I can see why there's an entertainment value to that. And I think as a consumer, it'll be interesting if they even are truthful on the ratings of like how the non-forward versus the forward events do from a viewership standpoint.
Yeah.
I think looking at like a Lake Champlain without forward facing, I think will be fun to watch. Just
to
from
watch.
you're going to have
So
the
fun to watch.
diversity of more topwater fishing, more largemouth at play,
Yes.
things of that nature. So I think that'll be good. But yeah, I also understand like when you have the best in the world and you're leaving it up to a coin flip, I can understand that narrative. But then my mind goes all over the place on this one. That's why I haven't really figured out how I want to think about it yet. Because when people talk about the coin flip being unprofessional, you could then go to the NFL and be like, well, they start every game with a coin flip. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's such a minor thing. The coin flip in the NFL is such a minor. I mean,
is it though? Because like the team that starts with the ball in the second half, if they're leading going in the second half, they have a big advantage going into that. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know how you. Yeah, I see your point though. I see your point. And so,
yeah.
So Jake was back. I think Bassmaster logged onto your thing, and cut you off.
Bassmaster hacked me, dude.
They wiretapped you. Like, delete.
You are cut off.
Hey, listen to that. I'm going to get a nasty email here in a little bit.
Yeah, we're not trying to get you in trouble. I just was curious your thoughts and maybe early thoughts too of like how are you going to prepare differently in 2026 for some of these things that we now know don't have. Like, are you able to use it in practice? Do we even know that?
Oh, we're not allowed to use it in practice. So I think guys are going to probably have to run like 2 different setups for depending on whether we can use it or not. Just with the screen size restriction which we have, so it's not like guys can set their boat up to be able to have units that run. Like 360 is going to be a pretty big deal whenever we're not able to use. I think you're going to see a little bit of a resurgence from 360 and guys using that technology to turn around to the next event, being able to use forward facing and maybe having to switch up. At least that's how it'll be for me with the setup I have. I'm running a 22-inch screen kind of limits what else you can have, but I think you'll see guys with 2 different setups as far as electronics go, just with the way the schedule's set up with the rules we have in place.
What this is counterintuitively doing. I mean, think about this for a second. The whole screen size thing, part of the narrative, from the way I understand it, was like we're making this more affordable for people coming in. We don't have to run $35,000 in electronics on our boats to compete at the pro level. But you're spot on. What theoretically could happen, 360 is made by one company, right? That's Humminbird. And so if you have these events where you're switching stuff, you now are going to have guys with a graph sitting in their truck for when they're using forward facing, and then a graph sitting in their truck for when they're running 360. And now they're buying 2 sets of graphs. Plus, if you're running an MBT and then having to like have your Apex connect to it or your Garmin, so it's just like,
Yeah.
this is kind of counterintuitive from that narrative standpoint.
Well, with the events too being flip flop from non to forward, almost like a perfectly flip flop every event, you're going to have like guys with multiple wiring setups swapping head units every single event. You're going to have rigging parties between every single event of guys swapping over. It's going to be wild, man. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, and obviously I'm sure you have a better idea of like schedule, like dates wise, like the back-to-backs are going to be, tough for you guys to change and over.
Yeah, like there's, especially if you do well in the event prior to the next one, it's like you have X amount of hours to get to the next event and turn around and start practice the very next day. So it's not like those guys are kind of at a little bit of a disadvantage to the guys that didn't make the cut and had 2 days to re-rig their boat essentially.
Wow, that's a point I never even thought about.
Yeah, it's it obviously seems like something they didn't think a whole lot about, which hopefully they don't hear this, but this seems to be their AO.
We're gonna start seeing. You can start the trend here, Jacob. You got to hire a fishing caddy. So when you're driving down the road, strap them into the front seat so that they can re-rig everything while you're driving.
Yeah.
There's just a little elf up there. There's just an elf working on your boat while you're running 80 down the highway.
Yeah. Just like backpack, strap them into the front seat, up on the deck and the butt seat, and they're just working on your wiring while you're zooming down the highway.
You're sitting there like, all right, like getting blown away in the wind,
blocking all the wind.
Hey, that's a content idea. Just send it to Red Bull. They'll be all over covering that. It's like a little daredevil idea, rigging on the road,
wearing like a helmet, like dialed in motorcycle suit.
Hey, Trent Palmer, you're gonna see him on the back of Patty Walter's boat rigging on the road.
Yeah.
Or it's like maybe Bass has to provide a rigging electronics trailer where they just come and rig your boats in between events.
They're gonna need about 100 employees because
it's gonna be interesting to see, and then circle back, mid-season, end season, how that's going for you and adjustments you'll have to make from there. But I guess with that being said, now that the coin has been flipped, which event do you think you got your circle on that you're most excited for?
It's hard not to circle the St. Lawrence. I'm pretty excited for Champlain to be able to. Champlain's the one place I feel like a lot of guys are upset that they can't use forward facing, but that place is so good. I don't think it's really going to matter. I think weights at the top end will be pretty similar without than they will with. I don't think you'll see the high weights all the way through like we have the last several times we've been there, but I still feel like that's one of those places it's still going to be really, really good and will still show out almost very similar to what it would have been with forward facing, just with a little bit different color fish.
Yeah, we were just talking about that when we lost you there for a little bit. We were saying though that like we're still not sure where we sit on the coin flip, but that could be cool to see Champlain, just to showcase how diverse Champlain is and why you guys get so excited to go up there every year.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
I did not want to go to St. Lawrence without it. I don't know why you'd ever want to go up there without it.
And everybody's still going to be looking down and just dragging instead of casting.
Yeah. Well, it was Matt Streichel, SB Fishing, shared a clip on his story where he was like, after the coin flip to whether or not it was going to be forward facing or non forward facing on St. Lawrence, it was like, I remember it was like a tournament from like 10 or whatever years ago, and some guy was sitting there staring out in the middle of Lake Ontario at 2D, just waiting for him to go over. I think it was Evers, and it was like nothing's changed for the St. Lawrence. Like it's just different in sonar, which now they don't even eat below the boat very much anymore.
That's what I was fixing to say. Like, I mean, they don't eat under the boat anymore.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But any other takeaways for next year, man? Anything that people should know about coming up for you that they can invest in with Jacob Fouts Fishing?
I'm not gonna suck next year.
Hell
I
yeah.
like that.
Amen to that. Fellas, you got anything else for Jacob?
Nah, go catch him.
Nah, man. Thanks
Go
for
shoot 'em.
always being
Shoot
a
a deer, yeah.
great and narrow, talking your mind through all this stuff. We always appreciate it. So
Yeah, of course.
Heck yeah. Well, appreciate it as always, buddy. And we'll be talking soon and hopefully seeing some deer pictures from you.
Yeah, hopefully you'll see one about noon on the 27th of September. So
I like it. Hell yeah. Well, appreciate it, buddy. We'll be talking to you soon. All right, folks, that's going to do it for today's show with Mr. Jacob Fouts. If you guys are not following him on social media or anything like that yet, his links will be down in the show description where you guys can go and do so. If you guys are looking to go fish Chickamauga, he's a great guy to link up with, go fish with. But I think Deacon, at least you and I can agree that the hunting bug is going around quick.
it's an itch, dude. I'm sitting here like, this Friday, Saturday's got to come. I'm getting out this weekend, and I'm just fired up for it.
Yeah, it's bad when I'm checking my Moultrie app first thing in the morning before I text my wife good morning when I'm out fishing or something like that. That's how you know. But
I think we're getting ready for the Derby on Saturday, and you're like, look at this one last night.
yeah. Everyone's getting ready, and I'm sitting there looking at trail cam pictures. But
And he's getting off the water. He's like, ooh, I got to check my
I got to
trail
see what
cam."
happened overnight.
Yeah.
Wake up.
During the day while I'm fishing.
Yeah.
oh, I did. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'll confess, I definitely checked my trail camera a couple times during the tournament. When I'm like going spot to spot, I'm pulling up the app. Like, oh, what's going on? What you guys up
That's
to?
great.
But yeah, no, it's the fun time of year. It could be a challenging time of year, but it's one where if you get out and you spend the time, you can really learn a lot. It can help you for years to come, especially when bass are on the move like that. They can tell you different things if you're willing to listen and put in the time. So if you're not in the woods like us, it's a great time obviously to be, but it's a great time to also be on the water. It seems like, guys, I don't know about for you up in the Pacific Northwest, Deacon, but once that first cold front hits, stabilizes, every cold front after that seems like it's really good fishing. If you can time that front coming in, it's usually lights out.
I think you're dead on.
Yeah.
Like that is
But
a real thing.
I'm saying on the flip side of that, though, is after that cold front hits and you get like that mid 40, low 50-degree, bright blue, sunny day,
Brutal.
the fishing can be terrible.
That's when you go hunting. That's when you go hunting. It definitely is. You hit it on the head, Andy, where it's like the nastier, the better is full emphasized this time of year. It's very window based. That's where you can obviously learn a lot if you're willing to be open minded and keep notes. But great show, Jacob Fouts. Thanks again to him for jumping on here. And we got some fun shows coming up in the hopper for you guys. Next week's Real Biology show is going to be an awesome one with Ryan from the Maryland's fishing game, where he took all of the numbers from the whole year of Major League Fishing's Bass Pro Tour, every single catch, and evaluated all of the fish catches with forward facing, without forward facing, compared catch rates and catch size to with and without tech. And we did a whole show on that. So that'll drop Monday. That'll be a really good one for you guys to tune into. And then we got some shows lined up, obviously, for the coming weeks. We got Byron Velvick. We're trying to figure out dates to get him on. We got Hunter Shryock. We're getting dates to get him on. Tommy Wood. So we got some really cool shows coming up in the hopper for you guys for the Serious Angler show. And we got Bertrand lined up as well for Seriously Western, talking about some Arizona fishing and many more to come. If you guys have any ideas of stuff you'd like to hear talked about, obviously comments, DMs, email is always open. Appreciate all the feedback. But you guys got anything else for the folks before we tune out here?
No, man. Great show. Fouts is always a person who tells it how it is, his feelings, etc., all sorts of that. So great to see him doing his thing as usual, and hoping he has a blessed 2026 catches him up.
Heck yeah. Well, I guess last thing too, quick for the kayak folk specifically, Kayak Fishing Weekly is back. It is back, and so there'll be some more shows start firing off Kayak Fishing Weekly. As always, that'll be on its own YouTube channel. If you just search Kayak Fishing Weekly on YouTube, and as well as on podcast platforms in addition to that. So, folks, appreciate y'all as always for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
Peace.